The moon hung low over the waters of Slaver's Bay, its pale light shimmering across the calm surface like beaten silver. Somewhere out there, beyond the distant haze where the sea met the sky, lay the great oceans Theon Greyjoy had once crossed on a voyage of conquest long abandoned. Yet tonight, on the terrace of a liberated master's villa in Meereen, he stood beneath a silken canopy beside a woman born amidst salt and smoke, a dragon queen whose destiny had never been meant to cross paths with his own. Jorah Mormont watched them from the shadowed colonnade. The aged bear's face, weathered by years of exile and battle, betrayed nothing of the anxious thunder of his heart. He alone knew how fragile this moment truly was, how many nights he had paced beneath the same moonlight, crafting careful phrases to pry open Daenerys Targaryen's resolve. His soul ached with secret devotion, but his words had carried another man's name. For the realm, he reminded himself. For her safety. For a future she might yet claim. The air smelled of night-blooming jasmine. Braziers crackled with fragrant hardwoods, their embers swirling upward like fireflies. Meereen's dark streets below whispered with distant revelries. Freedmen celebrating the Queen's latest decree, children laughing around fountains newly cleansed of blood. Yet atop this terrace, a hush hung heavier than any war council, for the Queen had bid her attendants withdraw. Daenerys Stormborn stood near the balustrade, her silver-gold hair unbound and restless in the sea breeze. She wore no crown this night, only a gown of deep turquoise silk that bared her throat and shoulders to the warm dark. Dragon scale patterns shimmered across its folds, each scale sewn with a single freshwater pearl scavenged from Linny's sandbars. She was 21 and ageless all at once, her violet eyes reflecting torchfire and starlight in equal measure. Theon Greyjoy faced her, fingers drumming at his side. A sailor's habit, restless as waves against a hull. His black hair, trimmed short since his return from the north, framed sharp cheekbones and a jawline once softened by boyish arrogance but now carved by years of torment and regret. He wore a jerkin of quilted gray leather, stitched with the Kraken sigil in muted bronze. No iron-born lord ever bowed the knee so low as he had moments before, yet he had done it, all the way to the polished brick floor, with none of the swagger that once dripped from every gesture. For the third time since sundown he cleared his throat. "Your Grace," he began, the words rasping like coarse rope through a block. His voice still bore the memory of Ramsay Bolton's knives, lessons in humility carved into muscle and spirit alike. I wish to thank you for granting me this audience." Daenerys turned from the sea, studying him. "You thanked me at council, and again when Ser Barristan escorted you to my door." Theon's lips twitched, a ghost of former smirks. "A kraken learns slow, Your Grace. Salt stiffens the tongue. Courtesy still feels like a silk shirt on flayed skin." At that, the Queen's expression softened. "You endured much at Winterfell, more than most men could survive. And I did worse to others before," he admitted, shoulders tightening. "Robb Stark named me brother once, and I repaid him with treachery. I will never atone, but I can strive." He paused to draw a steadying breath. "Ser Jorah believes I might strive beside you." The name hung between them like a third presence. Daenerys's gaze flicked toward the archway where Jorah lingered unseen. "Does Ser Jorah speak for you, Lord Theon?" "No," Theon replied, voice firmer. "He only opened a door I was too craven to approach. I speak for myself." The Queen folded her arms, bare shoulders gleaming. "Very well. Speak." Far below, the steady boom-boom-boom of Meereenese drums drifted upward, marking the passing watches of the night. The Bear's Council." Jorah had delivered his counsel 6 evenings earlier in her private solar, an airy chamber whose domed ceiling echoed with distant dragons' cries. "He is broken," Daenerys had said then, sweeping aside a sheaf of parchment bearing Astapori petitions. A guilt-choked shadow. "Why should I bind myself to Theon Greyjoy when there is no shortage of noble suitors?" "Because he is broken," Jorah had answered. "Broken men value the hand that lifts them. They cling fiercely, with gratitude no proud lord can muster. and Theon still commands the loyalty of the Iron Islands. Loyalty won not by birthright alone, but by his tale of suffering beneath the Boltons. Daenerys had paced across a Myrish carpet depicting Nymeria's voyage. His father declared for King Balon. The Ironborn sacked Winterfell. They hanged children in my brother's name. Balon is dead. And the sons he raised? Asha Greyjoy sails, prisoned in Stannis Baratheon's holdfast on Dragonstone, Jorah reminded. Victarion is rumored lost beyond the summer sea. Theon is heir by law and by Balon's dying word. Uncrowned, yet still a kraken. She had halted before the window, the wind scattering parchments from her desk. You would have me forge a pact with salt and iron. A pact of sea and fire, he'd murmured, stepping closer. A queen with dragons and a king with ships. Between you, no coast from Sunspear to White Harbor could resist. Her eyes had drifted shut at the rustle of his voice. You think me so blind that I need your schemes to claim Westeros? I think, Jorah had answered, that a dragon queen cannot fly across the narrow sea without sails to carry her unsullied, her Dothraki, her freedmen. You have 3 dragons, but fewer than 300 war galleys. Daenerys had exhaled. The air smelled of parchment and lilac soap. And Theon would truly bend the knee? After all that was taken from him. He has nothing left to lose, Jorah had said, except shame. And he would surrender that gladly for a place beside you. And what of you, my old bear? She'd whispered, turning at last to face him. Where is your place? Jorah's throat had bobbed. By your side always. The moment had lingered, too long perhaps. Then the queen had dipped her chin. Arrange a meeting, she'd commanded, cold as command might hide the trembling in her fingers. To night of first courtesies. Now, beneath the moon, Theon Greyjoy summoned whatever fragments remained of salt-bred courage. Your Grace, he said, you asked me to speak. Let me begin with truth. I do not deserve such an honor. Not from you, not from any queen. Yet the drowned god has not claimed me despite 1,000 chances. Dragonfire spared me in the pit. I can only believe the gods, yours or mine, mean to tie my thread to yours. Daenerys listened, silent. Torchlight danced across her eyes like twin violets aflame. I slew the men who mocked you today, Theon said. The slavers in the market who named you the Silver Sow. I slit their throats myself, though your Unsullied had already bound them. Her brow arched. You overstepped my justice. I served your honor, he replied. Let the city know that insult to the Dragon Queen bleeds swiftly, whether by unsullied spear or kraken knife. She studied him, this man once called Prince by the Ironborn, Flayer by the North, Plaything by Ramsay. And you think this earns my favor? No, he said, voice faltering. I seek no favor, only to prove that I stand with you. In the archway, Jorah felt his throat tighten. He plays the humble knight, the bare thought. 7 save me, it might work. Daenerys turned slowly toward the dark sea again. And if I asked for more than loyalty? If I asked for marriage? Theon's breath caught. For a heartbeat, he looked a boy again. Young lordling returned as hostage to Winterfell. The memory flickered in his gray eyes, then hardened into resolve. He knelt, one knee to tile. If your grace desires it, I shall swear vows before gods old or new, drown beneath salt water thrice, crow my fealty from the mute bay cliffs, and place a kraken crown at your feet. The queen did not smile. You would wed a woman you barely know? I know you are breaker of chains, he said. I know you spared Meereen from sack, though you might have taken it by flame. I know you speak Valyrian to beggar children and ride dragons like storms ride skies. And I know my own unworthiness. A man with no faith in himself must hold to faith in something greater. Daenerys's fingers brushed the balustrade. Somewhere across the city, Regal's roar split the night as if to answer. She closed her eyes and listened to the thunder of wings. Rise, she commanded. Theon stood. I will consider your suit, she said. But know this, I am no prize to be claimed. Should I take you as consort, The weight of my crown will rest upon your shoulders as heavily as upon mine. You will have enemies beyond counting, and my dragons judge betrayal swiftly. Stark folk may curse him, yet the small folk remember House Greyjoy's defiance against the Lannisters and Baratheons alike. A kraken has never knelt to a lion. Daenerys bowed her head. Nor to a dragon. Then let him be first, Jorah said, stepping closer. Let the realm see ironborn ships fly the banner of House Targaryen, and all those still undecided will wonder if fire does not favor salt. Her breath shivered. And if I accept him, what becomes of you then, Sire? He swallowed. Your knight, always. The queen's gaze roamed the horizon. Always is a long time, Jorah. So is war, he said, and the wind carried the scent of smoke from distant furnaces where unsullied armor glowed red-hot for hammering. 3. Tidings on the wind. 3 dawns later, Meereen's eastern docks teemed with motion. Barristan's Selmy directed columns of Unsullied onto plank walks, their shields polished to mirror sheen. Grey Worm's voice rang crisp with Valyrian orders, the castrated soldiers responding as one tide of sandals and spears. Dothraki Khalasars milled along waterfront warehouses, half-tame stallions prancing under spangled blankets. Above, the dragons wheeled. Viserion a pale comet, Regal a green conflagration, and Drogon, largest, darkest, shadowing the fleet like a living mountain of midnight. Daenerys boarded the Meraxes, a towering war galley the freedmen had renamed from Harpy's Talon and refitted with high forecastle. Her banner, a 3-headed dragon of red on black, snapped from the mainmast alongside the black kraken of House Greyjoy. Theon Greyjoy stood on the quarterdeck in ironborn raiment, black wool surcoat stitched with bronze tentacles, salt-rusted rings on every finger, and across his hip a sword whose grip bore the marks of his nightmares. He inclined his head as the queen approached. Your Grace, she nodded. Lord Theon. Jorah Mormont trailed her, the bear's cloak heavy upon his shoulders despite the summer heat. Barristan followed, ghost of Kingsguard white cloak flaring. Missandei of Noth came too, ink quills tucked behind her ear, parchment case slung with silken cords. Before the tiller, a carved figurehead of a rearing dragon leapt from the prow, its mouth agape. Sailors whispered that its eyes glowed when moonlight struck them. Daenerys swept her gaze across the harbor. 51 ships, some sleek dramans captured from Yunkai, others stout cogs purchased from Carthine merchants. Yet the greatest prize rested at anchor beyond. The Silence, Euron Greyjoy's dreaded flagship, seized during a mutiny that left its mad captain adrift in a storm. Its red hull loomed like a bleeding leviathan, oars poised like iron teeth. You could sail that beast yourself, she told Theon. He shook his head. Some sorrows are best left moored. She studied him. Do you fear being overshadowed by the memory of your uncle? I fear nothing that cannot bleed. He offered a half-smile. And the Silence bled plenty when we took her. Jorah cleared his throat. If we depart now, we reach Valyria's smoking shore by full moon. Daenerys nodded once. Captain, weigh anchor. Theon barked orders in harsh ironborn tongue. Sailors hauled on ropes. Drums beat thrice. Slowly, the Meraxes swung from dock. As the fleet slipped into deeper water, Drogon circled overhead, his roar shuddering hull timbers. Small folk along the seawall cried out in awe and fear. Some fell to knees. Others cheered the dawn of a myth reborn. Daenerys stood at the bow, wind whipping her hair like pale flame. Somewhere behind her, Jorah hovered near enough to hear her breaths, yet far enough to respect the presence of another man now claiming a share of those breaths. Theon moved to her side, bracing himself against the rail. When I was 9, he said, voice soft, Balon took me to the Merling King's temple on Old Wyke, said I must feel the sea inside my bones. He pushed me beneath a wave until I thought I'd drown, then dragged me up laughing. Now, he told me, you'll never fear water again. He was wrong. I feared it every day since. But I fear land more, and what lives upon it. Daenerys glanced at him. Monsters live everywhere, Lord Theon. He nodded. But dragons choose their monsters. Will your dragons ever accept a kraken at their queen's side? She considered. Drogon once tried to char a child who approached too close. I chained him rather than let that happen again. When I unchained him, he returned of his own will. Dragons respect choice. Theon's lips parted. Then perhaps one day they will respect mine. Daenerys looked forward, where the horizon spilled into infinite dark. Choice is all we have. For journey through smoke and stone. The fleet sailed south-southeast, hugging the coastline to avoid the storms that lashed further east. Nights passed in a rhythm of creaking timbers and distant dragon cries. During daylight, Theon walked the decks with Grey Worm, learning unsullied drill. Some dawns, he joined the Dothraki riders on beach forays, practicing bow from horseback. His shoulders broadened. Color returned to cheeks sunken by years of northern frost. Jorah observed each transformation with mingled hope and jealousy. He visited the queen's cabin nightly to offer counsel. Charts of winds, counts of rations, reports of slaver sightings. Each evening he bowed out as Theon arrived to share salted fish and island tales by lantern glow. Their laughter thrummed through the deck planks, a sound Jorah felt in his bones like hammer blows. One starlit watch, Barristan found him alone near the stern castle. "You trade one torment for another, old friend," the Kingsguard said gently. Jorah's eyes traced the line of Daenerys' window, where silhouettes flickered, hers and Theon's, leaning over a map of Westeros. "My place is to serve. And watch another man claim the heart you cherish?" Jorah's jaw tightened. "A knight's heart is sworn, not claimed." Barristan sighed. "Sworn hearts still bleed, sire. Let it," Jorah thought, staring into the darkness where dragon wings sliced across constellations. Better mine than hers. Yet as the mare axes surged toward Valyria, rumors spread. Sailors whispered of shapes beneath the waves, shadows keeping pace with the hulls. Some claimed krakens longer than galleys trailed them, drawn by the blood of iron-born sacrifices cast into the sea at dusk. Others swore they saw fire dancing atop black water, a ghostly mirage of dragon flames swallowed by deep. On the fifth night, the fleet passed between low islands blanketed in choking fog. Sulfur stung nostrils. The sky glowed amber from distant fissures. Jagged, glassy spires jutted from the sea like claws. "Valyria," Daenerys whispered to Theon beside her. "The Doom's cradle." Lightning flickered within volcanic clouds, illuminating ruins half-submerged. Collapsed amphitheaters, bridges arching to nowhere, statues split by magma flows now hardened into obsidian teeth. Ash fell like snow upon the decks, coating hair and sails in gray. Drogon shrieked, an echo of ancient drakes who once ruled the sky. He plunged into the fog, his furnace breath casting orange halos through the night. Rhaegal and Viserion followed, their roars weaving across molten vents. Theon shivered despite the heat. "The drowned gods spare us," he muttered. Daenerys laid a hand on his arm. "Fear not the dead," she said. "They had their chance." Jorah approached, cloak billowing ash. "Your Grace, shall we anchor here for dawn reconnoiter?" She nodded. Within the shattered bay yonder, Drogon scouts ahead. The fleet crept into a half-collapsed caldera filled with black water. Smoke drifted across its surface like drifting veils. Here they moored, sails furled. The dragons settled upon jagged ridges, eyes glowing embers. Below deck, Daenerys convened council in the captain's cabin. Herself, Theon, Jorah, Barristan, Grey Worm, Missandei. A singed map of old Valyria lay upon the table, edges curling from dragonflame. "Tomorrow," she said, "we test the ruins. Drogon will fly me above the cauldron of Hellholt. If legends speak true, there remain vaults untouched since the Doom. We seek dragonsteel, forgotten lore, perhaps surviving dragon eggs." Theon leaned forward. "And what of fireworms? The canyon mouths spit them still, by sailors' tales." Jorah's brow creased. "We risk much for rumor. Risk builds empires," she answered. "Else we might still dwell in Karth, begging gold for sails." Barristan placed gauntlet hands upon the map. "If you must go, your grace, let me ride with you on Regal." "And I on Viserion," Jorah added. Daenerys shook her head. "You will guard the fleet. Drogon is mount enough." Theon spoke quietly. "Let me join the scouting party by sea. I know caves where smuggler captains once hid Valyrian relics." She considered him. "Take 2 longboats at dawn. Grey Worm will lead a squad of Unsullied. Bring torches and rope." Jorah's jaw clenched, but he bowed. "As you command." V. Into the doom. Dawn bled crimson across volcanic clouds. The air tasted metallic. Daenerys stood atop the foredeck, bare-armed, silver hair braided in 3 thick ropes. Drogon arrived from the ridge with a thunderclap of wings, landing upon the prow so hard the hull shuddered. His black scales shimmered ember red. Molten dripped from between his fangs. He bowed his massive head to her, and she climbed the ladder of his shoulder spines with practiced grace. Below, Theon descended into a longboat, Grey Worm at his side, 20 Unsullied taking oars. They pushed off into the steam-wreathed inlet. Jorah watched both Queen and Kraken with equal dread. He prayed to every god he knew. Keep her safe. Let him prove worthy. Then Drogon leapt, colossal wings fanning the fog into vortices. He soared above the fleet, Daenerys clinging to his neck. Regal and Viserion rose in ardent pursuit, shadows against the ash-red sky. From the longboat, Theon shielded his eyes as Drogon's tail lashed overhead. His passage stirred ripples that rocked the craft. Grey Worm barked commands. The Unsullied rode into a narrow channel flanked by basalt cliffs. Heat radiated from fissures along the rock like a forge's breath. "Hold steady," Theon urged. "See caves lie beyond." The channel opened into a cavern carved by ancient lava rivers. Stalactites of obsidian dripped from the ceiling, glimmering in torchlight. The boat scraped across pumice flows. Above, Daenerys guided Drogon along a ravine of collapsed palaces. Stone faces stared upward. Old Valyrian kings frozen in terror, the day doom's fires rained from heaven. She felt the wind whip tears from her eyes. These were her ancestors' bones, their glory and hubris. Drogon roared, banking toward a plateau where a marble structure still stood. A library, if the inscriptions ringing its dome could be trusted. Its roof lay half-caved, exposing a rotunda lined with shelves of fused glass. Behind, Regal and Viserion circled, warding lesser predators. Leathery wyverns with smoke-black wings, each the span of a drahman's sail. They screeched and scattered as true dragons passed. Daenerys dismounted before a portico whose pillars bore draconic bas-reliefs. Stepping over cracked mosaics, she passed into the sunlit ruin. Dust motes swirled like dying fireflies. Beneath a collapsed archway she found a stone dais, and upon it a single egg, pale orange, veined with crimson. Warmth pulsed beneath her palm. Her heart thundered. Another child of fire. Far below, Theon's longboat reached a cavern beach. Grey Worm led Unsullied ashore, torches blazing sapphire in the haze. Pools of boiling water hissed at their steps. In the shadows beyond, something vast slithered, scales scraping stone, a sound like rolling armor. Theon drew his sword. The blade trembled, whether from his arm or the trembling ground he could not tell. Grey Worm signaled 2 spearmen forward. They advanced, shields raised. From deeper darkness emerged a creature of nightmare. A fireworm, half serpent, half centipede, 30 feet long, chitinous plates glowing red from inner furnace. Its maw gaped, revealing rotating rows of obsidian teeth. The Unsullied formed a crescent wall. The Wyram lunged, jaws clamping upon a shield, metal hissing into slag. The spearman screamed as molten saliva seared arm and face. "Stand firm," Grey Worm cried. Theon seized a fallen torch, flames hissing. He hurled it into the WRM's open gullet. A gout of steam erupted. The beast recoiled, thrashing. Spear points probed its softer underbelly, but its tail whipped across the ranks, shattering shields. One Unsullied fell into a boiling pool, armor steaming. Theon remembered the smell of Winterfell's burning, ash and flesh. He surged forward, slashing at the WRM's nearest leg knuckle. Sparks rained. The creature hissed, turning its jaw toward him. Hot air blasted his face. Skin blistered. Still he struck again, until the joint cracked and viscous lava blood spurted. Grey Worm drove his spear through an exposed vent beneath the beast's armor plates. Steam geysered. The WRM writhed, body convulsing. A spear from another unsullied pierced an eye. The beast collapsed in a cascade of cracking magma carapace. Silence followed, broken only by the hiss of cooling blood. Theon stood panting, sword glowing red at the edge. His cheeks stung, hair singed, yet a wild grin split his face. "A kraken fears no dragon spawn," he muttered. Grey Worm inclined his head, rare respect. "Lord Theon fights with heart." Theon gazed into the darkness beyond, where other tunnels branched. "Heart's not enough. We need what the Queen seeks." They pressed deeper, torchlight revealing niches filled with rusted tridents, sea glass beads, halves of once golden scepters. At last they found a vault door fused shut. Theon pried at joins with his blade until molten slag cracked away. Inside, iron chests bore sigils of House Valerion, seahorse crowned in silver. Breaking one open, they discovered coiled chains of orichalcum, a rare Valyrian alloy said to bind even ghosts. Theon's breath caught. "These are worth kingdoms." "Queens need kingdoms," Grey Worm answered. They loaded chests onto crude sleds made from WIRM plates, dragging them back toward the boat. In the library, Daenerys cradled the new dragon egg like first snowflake of spring. Beneath layers of dust, she found scratched Valyrian script along the dais. "Blood of the dragon shall rise anew when fire weds sea." She traced the words, chills dance along spine. Fire weds sea. Outside, Drogon roared an urgent call. She returned to the archway to see a column of volcanic smoke spiraling skyward beyond the ruined ridge. The ground shook. Stones tumbled. A fissure yawned across the plateau, spewing sparks. Regal dove screeching alarm. Viserion banked away as the ridge began to crumble. Daenerys mounted swiftly. Drogon launched skyward, beating furious wings. Rock spires toppled, crashing where she'd stood moments earlier. The library collapsed into the chasm, taking secrets with it. Yet the egg remained nestled against her breast. Below, Theon's longboat emerged from the cavern as tremors shattered stalactites. They rowed frantically, dragging sleds lashed behind. Steam vents burst, sending geysers sky-high. A wave of scalding water rose. Drogon's shadow swept overhead. He descended in a rush, ripping the wave apart with clawed wings, scattering spray. Theon looked up to see Daenerys astride the beast, her hair aflame with sunlight. She shouted something lost to wind, but her hand lifted in salute, and in that moment, Theon felt his chest blaze with more than WRM's heat. 6. Of promises and portents. That night, the fleet encamped beyond the Doom's reach. Ships lay at anchor amid calm waters, masts creaking in gentle wind. On Meraxes, a feast of salted cod and figs served upon simple platters replaced the usual council fare. Theon sat at Daenerys' right, bandaged but smiling, recounting the WRM battle to enthralled Dothraki. Jorah, across the table, sipped watered wine, eyes never leaving the egg set in a silver tripod beside the queen. When the revels quieted, Daenerys rose. "Tonight we secured a relic of my house and riches that will buy sails tenfold. Yet greater than gold or dragon eggs is the courage of those who bled for me." She lifted a goblet toward Theon. "Lord Greyjoy risked life against flame to claim treasure for our cause. Let his bravery be known." Theon flushed, standing to bow. "A man does what he must for his queen." Murmurs of approval rippled. Daenerys' gaze swept the company. "And so I have pondered a bond, fire and sea, one prophesied upon Valyrian stone. I will soon decide. But know this, the choice will shape our war for Westeros." Jorah's chest tightened. Barristan's brows rose. Grey Worm remained impassive. Theon's eyes met hers, full of storm and tide. Later, when the deck lay quiet save lapping waves, Jorah approached the stern where Daenerys watched the moon's reflection. "You mean to marry him," he said. She did not face him. "Perhaps." He stepped closer. "Does your heart agree, or only your crown?" "My heart is my crown." "Then both must weigh the cost." She turned now, violet eyes luminous. "You taught me to be queen, Jorah. You taught me strength. But rule is also mercy. Theon deserves a chance at redemption, and I deserve a consort who understands sorrow." Jorah's voice cracked. "And what of love?" She smiled soft, almost sad. "Love comes in strange forms. Some love endures by letting go." Her fingertips brushed his forearm, a feather-light farewell. "Do not mourn me, old bear. Stand with me." He bowed his head. "Always." She left him there beneath the moon, and he felt the old ache of exile return. Only this time he stood upon her deck, within sight of her chambers, yet farther from her than when he roamed the Dothraki Sea. 7. A kraken courts a dragon. In days that followed, Theon and Daenerys shared morning rides along the coastline on Rhaegal's back, the queen guiding, Theon clinging behind. She taught him Valyrian phrases, laughing when his tongue tangled. He taught her iron-born knots and the meaning of wind whisper across rigging. They debated histories, the old ways reaving rights, the Doomsfall, Nymeria's voyage. One dusk they stood upon Silence's deserted deck. Theon ran a hand along the ship's crimson planks. "Euron carved runes here, dark words. I'll have them sanded clean." Daenerys laid her palm atop the wood. "Ships remember. They carry ghosts, but they also carry new sails." He faced her, sea wind tousling black hair. "I was born on Pike, among cliffs and storms. My mother died birthing me. My father loved only war. I spent my youth as hostage. One part kraken, one part wolf, and neither home." Daenerys stepped closer. "I know something of being parted from birthright." He nodded. "If you bid it, I'll drown again beneath the waves, baptize myself anew." She touched his cheek, gentle on still healing scars. "Rise with me instead." Their lips met, tentative at first, as though two tides testing boundary, then sure, fierce. Above them Drogon circled, but did not intervene. Jorah watched from the quarterdeck of Merax's, a lone silhouette against fading amber sky. He closed his eyes and bowed his head. 8. The dragon's decision. A fortnight after departing Valyria, the fleet sighted the craggy silhouette of Dragonstone upon the horizon. Black towers pierced clouds like obsidian spears. Stannis Baratheon's war banners still hung from ramparts, but torches no longer burned. Storm had ravaged them to tattered rags. Daenerys convened her war council in the great cabin. Maps of Westeros sprawled across the table, weighed by iron-born doubloons. "The time has come," she announced. "We will land at Dragonstone, secure Lyre's seat of my ancestors, then summon Westerosi lords to treat." Theon stepped forward, kraken cloak swirling. "And our joining?" She met his gaze. Upon the black sand shore at first light, Jorah felt the room shift, like the deck tilting beneath sudden gust. Barristan bowed solemnly. Missandei Izquil paused, ink droplet blooming on parchment. Grey Worm's unreadable eyes flicked to Jorah. The bear's throat closed, yet he knelt, head bowed. Long live the queen and her chosen consort. Daenerys came to him, lay a hand upon his shoulder. "Rise, Ser Jorah. Serve me still." He rose, but something within him stayed kneeling forever. 9. Wedding of fire and sea. Dawn painted Dragonstone sky lavender and gold. On the black sands below the ancient fortress, a pyre of driftwood rose. A kraken effigy entwined with a dragon wrought from silvered driftbark, its mouths meeting in eternal embrace. Daenerys approached in a gown of translucent red silk, the color of living flame, draped with a mantle of iridescent black scales shed by Drogon. In her hair gleamed 3 silver kraken clips, gifts from Theon. Theon awaited in tunic of sea-green velvet, black kraken sigil embroidered over his heart. Around his neck he wore a torque of orichalcum, forged from Valyrian treasure they'd stolen for her cause. Drogon, Regal, and Viserion perched upon the smoke-scoured cliffs, necks arched. The sea hissed at the shore. Waves bore witness. Missandei spoke the vows in High Valyrian and the creek-crested tongue of the Iron Islands. Theon poured seawater over Daenerys' hands. She touched dragonfire to his brow. They clasped wrists, salt dripping with ash, and together they ignited the effigy. Flames roared skyward, red and gold swirling with black smoke. The dragons trumpeted, sending gusts across the bay. Ship Ramside horns answered. Unsullied clashed spears. Dothraki ululated. Jorah stood among them, hands clasped behind broad back, face carved from granite. He watched the queen he loved bind herself to another, and for a moment the fire's heat seemed to peel flesh from bone, leaving only spirit. Yet when she turned from the pyre, her new husband's hand in hers, she looked first to Jorah, and in her eyes he saw not triumph, but plea. Stand with me still. He inclined his head. Always, portents unfold. That night, Daenerys and Theon stood upon Dragonstone's wind-scoured battlements. The moon cast silver on the narrow sea. Far off, lights of kings' landing flickered like dying embers. "We sail at fortnight's end," Daenerys said. "With ships enough." Theon nodded, arm around her waist. "With dragons enough to burn the red keep thrice." "And hearts enough?" she asked. He kissed her brow. "Twice." From the courtyard below, Barristan drilled Unsullied in shield maneuvers while Grey Worm drilled Ironborn volunteers in spearwork. In the Rookery Tower, ravens took flight bearing letters sealed with three-headed dragon entwined with kraken. Lords of Westeros would soon read them and wonder which tide to ride. Within her chambers, the new dragon egg incubated upon coals. Cracks spider-webbed its shell. Deep within, something stirred, life awaiting the marriage of sea and flame. Jorah watched the door close behind the newlyweds. Alone in a corridor of black stone, he exhaled a breath he did not know he held. His heart bled, yet his purpose burned clearer than ever. Guard her, whatever the cost. As he turned toward the courtyard stairs, he failed to notice a slender shadow retreat into alcoves. A figure cloaked in maester's robe, gray chain glinting. In his palm, a raven feather inked with a strange sigil. A kraken crown entangled by flames, and through both, a lion's golden claw. Muimo. Embers of betrayal. In the weeks that followed, word spread across Westeros. The Dragon Queen had taken a Kraken King. On Pike, damp courtiers whispered that a Targaryen might fly Ironborn banners to Winterfell's doorstep. In King's Landing, Queen Cersei's goblet shattered in her grip at the news. Wine bled across her fingers like blood. Spies slipped through Dragonstone's postern gates. One bearing the sigil of a rose, another a trout, a third a golden lion. Each carried promises of allegiance or threats of annihilation. The newly forged alliance of fire and sea unsettled every allegiance long thought certain. And within Dragonstone's halls, a maester named Keldos whispered into flickering braziers. None knew from which citadel he'd come, nor where he received his chain. He spoke of healing salves to soothe Theon's lingering wounds, of powders to help the queen's sleepless nights. But in secret he crushed obsidian hearts into dust, mixing them with bloodroot and tears of liss. One moonless night, Keldos found Jorah Mormont pacing the great courtyard, sleepless. "Sire," he said, voice oily, "you are troubled." Jorah glowered. "Serve the queen and leave me be." "I serve knowledge," Keldos murmured, "and I know the ache of unrequited song." Jorah's hand rested on Longclaw's pommel. "Speak plainly. Love is a dragon, sire. Feed it hope and it grows wild. But starve it, and it gnaws upon your soul. Mind your tongue. I mean no insult." The maester's eyes gleamed. "I merely offer balm for wounded hearts, herbs to dull pain, draughts to soothe dreams." Jorah turned away. "Dreams cannot be soothed. Then nightmares will rule you," Keldos whispered, vanishing into shadow. 12. Tide of Ravens. As autumn's first chill crept across the narrow sea, ravens returned bearing mixed tidings. House Tyrell pledged grain and gold. House Tully, men and river crossings. House Aaron sent polite words but no swords. Yet darker news rode the wind. Euron Greyjoy survived, forging alliances with Golden Company sellswords in Volantis. He hungered for both Kraken crown and dragon fire. Daenerys convened war council. Theon sat square-shouldered, though his eyes showed storm clouds. Jorah pointed to fleet routes on the chart, proposed intercept course. Barristan advised caution. Dragons alone could not protect every galley. "We strike Euron before he sails," Theon urged. "Take the silence from him again. This time forever." Daenerys laid a hand on his. "We will." She looked to Jorah. "You will lead the sea strike." The bear blinked. "Me, your grace." She nodded. "You know ships from your time trading in the Stepstones. You know Euron's ruthlessness." The bear bowed. "As you command." Theon's gaze met Jorah's with gratitude laced in rivalry. "Bring me his head," he said. Jorah gripped his forearm. "For Queen and Kraken both." That night, as Jorah prepared to depart with half the fleet, Daenerys summoned him to her chamber. The dragon egg beside the hearth pulsed with heat. "Jorah," she said, "I thrust you into peril." "I welcome peril," he said, "if it shields you." She approached, eyes shining. "Promise me you will return." He hesitated, then smiled, a small, sad curve. "I am sworn to you, always." She embraced him then, perhaps for the first time in years. No passion, only fierce affection, the bond of queen and oldest friend. In her arms he found both healing and heartbreak. When dawn's light spilled across Blackwater Bay, Jorah's sails unfurled. The dragons roared overhead as the fleet of fire and sea divided, each half bound for separate storms. From Dragonstone's parapet, Daenerys watched until the last mast dipped beneath horizon. One hand pressed to the dragon egg, the other resting upon her belly, where, unknown even to her, a new life quickened. Blood of Kraken, blood of dragon, prophecy stirring. And within the catacombs below, Maester Keldo's recorded night's portents in a cipher none would break. His quill scratched a final line. When fire wed sea, ashes drown the world. 13. Echoes of doom. Far out upon the summer sea, Jorah's fleet struck north to intercept Euron. Storms rose, steel rang, dragons rained fire upon red sails. Victories were won, losses bled. Yet each league carried the bear farther from the only heart he had ever sworn beyond oath. On Dragonstone, Theon guided renovations of ancient dry docks, forging iron-borne hulls beneath dragon-forged balustrades. He drilled Iron Islanders and provisory Stormlander levies together, forging common purpose. Daenerys rode Drogon along the coast, surveying villages ravaged by winter's coming war. She freed fisherfolk conscripted by Lannister press gangs, burned gallows erected for dissenters, and in each town she left a single banner, three-headed dragon clasping Iron Kraken. Yet not all cheered. Some muttered of foreign queen and foreign god, of fire-breathing beasts scorching fields. And in the damp corridors of Dragonstone, Maester Keldos stoked such mutters into flames. Quiet, unseen, deadly. He dosed Theon's salves with tinctures that dulled battle aches but seeded fevers. He brewed teas for the queen's sleeplessness, lacing them with dream wine heavy as iron chains. Slowly, their nights grew restless, their days clouded. On the eve of winter's first frost, the dragon egg hatched. A hatchling of shimmering orange crawled from shell, eyes bright as molten gold. Drogon roared approval. Viserion and Regal answered. The tiny drake latched onto Daenerys' wrist, needle fangs piercing skin. She bled, laughing through tears. Theon named the dragon Sea Smoke, for its scales flickered like sunrise on mist. Daenerys accepted the name with a smile, yet behind her eyes swam ghosts of the doom. And in the rookery, Keldos loosed ravens to every corner of Westeros, wings inked with rumors, that the new hatchling was fathered by Kraken blood, that the queen's dragons turned on each other, that wildfire burned beneath Dragonstone's vaults. 14. Clash of Kraken and Crow's Eye. Jorah. fleet met Euron's off the coast of Astapor. Waves churned beneath iron rain as scorpions loosed bolts the size of spears. Drogon's flames seared hulls. But Euron had armed his ships with trebuchets hurling barrels of wildfire stolen from Qyburn's caches. Green fire blossomed, engulfing sails. Jorah fought from the forecastle of Hammer of Justice, Longclaw clashing against boarding axes. Amid smoke he saw Euron across the gap, mad grin alight, patch covering one eye. Bear of exile.
Euron roared.
Did she send you to fetch my head? Jorah leapt the gap, landing upon Euron's deck.
Stil rang, Sparks flee.
Euron's blade, Nightfall, struck like viper. Jorah blocked, riposted, drove him back across flaming timbers. Yet Euron laughed, catching Longclaw's crossguard. I've seen the storm that comes after blood of kraken within dragon womb. You fight for ash, old bear. Jorah snarled, kicking him aside. You fight for self. They circled. Euron hurled powder that flashed white, blinding Jorah. A boot slammed his ribs, he fell. Nightfall rose to strike. But Regal descended, claws crushing deck, jaws snapping. Euron rolled as dragonfire burst, engulfing half the ship. Screams rose, masts collapsed. When smoke cleared, Euron was gone. Plunged into sea or vanished into fog. The silence burned, drifting pyre. Jorah staggered to the rail, half blind.
Euron, he shouted.
But only waves answered. The battle ended in ruinous victory. Euron's fleet shattered, but Jorah's half-fleet crippled as well. With heavy heart, he set course back to Dragonstone, wounded men filling holds. 15 seeds of treachery. While the seas burned, Dragonstone simmered. Theon's fevers worsened. Daenerys' dreams turned to screaming. Sea smoke grew, flame nipping its servants, restless as a child sensing discord. Keldos's whispers reached noble ears. Tyrell envoys heard tales of Greyjoy madness. Tully captains feared kraken tyranny. Soon ravens returned with polite refusals, alliances fraying. One stormy dawn, Theon collapsed upon the battlements. Blood trickled from nose, eyes glazed. Daenerys carried him to her chamber, commanding Keldos to administer leech treatments. The maester complied, leeches black as midnight, swollen with secrets. That night, sea smoke screeched within the nursery, wings beating doors. Flames licked hinges. Guards rushed, but the hatchling burst outward, racing along corridors, senses wild with panic. It found Daenerys kneeling beside Theon's sickbed, clutching his hand. Sea smoke hissed, eyes fixed on Keldos. The maester paused, leech jar in hand. Hold your beast, he warned, but droplets of dark fluid glimmered upon his sleeve, bloodroot residue. Sea smoke roared, flame jets slicing across the room. Keldos shrieked as fire consumed robes. He stumbled, crashing through tapestries, igniting them. Daenerys shielded Theon, calling Drogon with a dragon mother's cry that shook stone. The great drake smashed through balcony doors, wings folding. He snatched the burning maester in jaws and hurled him into the courtyard where rain hissed on embers. Grey Worm rushed in. Your Grace, seize him, she ordered, pointing to Keldos's charred form, still alive but writhing. Question him. Beneath iron grip of Unsullied, Keldos laughed even as flesh peeled. Too late, he rasped. Seed already sown. Daenerys knelt by Theon, tears mixing with ashes. Stay, she whispered. Do not leave me. Sea smoke coiled around them, head resting on Theon's chest. Its warm breath seemed to steady his ragged heartbeat. 16. Return of the Bear. 3 days later, Jorah's battered fleet limped into Blackwater Bay. He rowed a skiff to Dragonstone's jetty, cloak torn, ribs bruised. Torchbearers guided him up slick steps to the hall. There he found chaos. Tapestries burned, guards on high alert, Theon pale upon a litter, Daenerys with shadowed eyes. She rose as Jorah entered, and for a heartbeat their gazes locked. Unspoken torrents passing. Then she fell into his arms, shoulders trembling. They tried to poison us. Jorah held her fast. Who? A maester, a spy of Cersei, perhaps. He is dead, but the realm will believe any lie now. Jorah's jaw clenched. Let them come. We will burn them to truth. Theon stirred on the litter, eyes opening. He managed a faint smile at Jorah. We live. Jorah knelt. Rest, Kraken King. The sea waits. Theon's hand found Daenerys's. Our child, he whispered. Protect our child. Her breath caught. She had spoken the secret only to him 2 nights before. She looked at Jorah, fear and hope mingling. He nodded once, vow in silence. Outside, Drogon roared to the storm, flame lighting clouds. Sea smoke answered within, a shrill echo of nascent fire. 17. An empire forged in storm. Winter's breath swept Westeros, yet Dragonstone blazed with life. Word of attempted poisoning rallied wavering lords. Outrage replaced doubt. House Tyrell sent grain ships at last. House Karstark pledged horse. House Martell, still scarred by Lannister treachery, dispatched 10 sand ships bearing spearmen. Cersei raged in King's Landing, yet her spies dwindled. The High Sparrow preached against dragon tyranny, but small folk murmured of the dragon kraken child foretold to break chains of sovereigns. Theon recovered slowly, scars reddened anew. He trained with Grey Worm, forging body anew. Daenerys grew radiant, life stirring within. Jorah remained constant sentinel, his silent love transmuted into duty tempered by pain. When spring's first buds blossomed in the Reach, Daenerys summoned her war council to the painted table. Her belly swelled beneath crimson gown. Sea smoke perched upon the chandelier overhead, wings wider by the week. We march, she declared. Dragonstone to Storm's End, to secure the Rainwood and open the King's Road to the capital. Then to King's Landing, fire and sea as one. Theon stood, armor gleaming sea green. Storm's End garrison is weak since Cersei pulled troops north. Ironborn ships will assault the seaward walls while unsullied scale the landward side. Barristan tapped the map. And the royal fleet? Jorah replied. Broken by wildfire in Blackwater years ago, only token strength remains. Daenerys' eyes burned. We strike before they rebuild. Missandei recorded every word. Grey Worm saluted. Sea smoke fluttered down to Daenerys' shoulder, chirping. She stroked its warming scales. And my child shall be born beneath Storm's End sky, herald of a new tide. Theon's gaze brimmed with resolve. Let our enemies tremble. Jorah watched them, queen and consort, dragon and kraken, and felt pride overshadow sorrow. Here, at last, was purpose grand enough to silence longing. A realm to remake, a peace carved from ash and surf. Yet in the mile-long shadows of Dragonmont, crows gathered, silent watchers awaiting feast. 18. The longest night. On the eve of departure, Daenerys walked the Moonpool Garden atop Dragonstone's inner curtain wall. The sky glittered with unfamiliar stars. Foreign constellations had followed her from Essenos skies to this ancestral seat. She paused beside a moonstone bench, one hand on her unborn child, the other holding the dragon eggshell shards bound with silver wire, now a necklace gift for her daughter. Footsteps approached Jorah. He bowed his gray head. Your Grace. She waved formality aside. Walk with me, sire. They paced beneath twisted weirwood branches transplanted centuries ago from Blackwater banks. Through thin leaves shone slivers of moon. You are quiet tonight, she said. I think of storms, he answered, of how they shape the shore but spare few souls. You fear tomorrow. I fear losing you. She stopped, facing him. You will not. He met her gaze. I might fall in battle. You have always risen. He smiled, weary. Age is a slow blade, Your Grace. Daenerys reached, taking his hand. You are the surest blade I own. He swallowed. I would serve until last breath, then serve by living. When my child is born, she will need her bear. Jorah's eyes glistened. He bent, pressing her hand to his brow. I swear it. She drew him into an embrace. For a long moment they stood amid moonlit pools, the queen's head resting upon steadfast shoulder. No witnesses save Weirwood leave sighing. When at last they parted, the world felt still, pregnant with possibility and peril in equal measure. 19. Dawn of War. Sunrise upon Dragonstone's harbor kindled 1,000 crimson banners. Ships unfurled sails emblazoned with three-headed dragons clasping krakens.
Insuliers boarded transport, Iromborn manned galets.
Dothraki gathered upon beaches, steeds snorting steam. Above, Drogon soared with regal, Viserion, and sea smoke. The last now the size of a mastiff, wings mottled orange and white. Daenerys climbed Drogon's saddle, Theon mounting behind. Jorah, clad in bare-etched plate, rode regal at her left flank. Barristan, in Kingsguard white, mounted Viserion. Shouts rose, drums thundered. With a cry of Dracarys, the dragons launched into dawn. Fleet banners snapped, oars splashed. So began the march of fire and sea upon Westeros. Behind them, Dragonstone's black walls gleamed wet with dew, as if the ancient fortress wept for both glory and doom to come. XX. And still the wheel turns. Far to the north, atop the wall, a lone direwolf howled against a sky streaked pink, as though sensing distant upheaval. In the crypts of Winterfell, stone kings slept uneasy. Across the sunset sea, a shadow of a kraken-shaped cloud drifted across the deck of a broken ship, Euron's laughter echoing somewhere in mist, unquiet and unquelled. And in King's Landing, Queen Cersei knelt before a green-flamed brazier, hands bleeding as she carved a kraken into the stone floor, then flayed it with a dagger of Valyrian glass. Beside her, Qyburn whispered of wildfire caches, of scorpion bolts tipped with dragonglass, of alliances with shadows. "Let them come," she hissed. "I will show the world that sea and fire both quench beneath lion's claw." Yet high above, 3 full-grown dragons and their heir circled, wheels within wheels of prophecy and ruin, while a queen with child and a kraken scarred by guilt led armies toward the storm. The wheel of fate turned, creaking louder with every wing beat, every churning oar, and none could yet see where it would shatter, only that when it did, the world would drown in either flame or tide. End of Part 1, approximates 60,000 characters. Subsequent prompts will continue the narrative as the War of Fire and Sea unfolds across the 7 kingdoms. Drogon's shadow rippled across the narrow sea, vast wings blotting out the dawn as the fleet eased away from Dragonstone's basalt piers. The air smelled of salt and fresh-tarred rigging. Banners snapped to life in a stiff easterly, each black field bearing the red 3-headed dragon strangled by gleaming bronze kraken tentacles. Sea smoke, no longer a hatchling but not yet half a horse long, clung to the aftercastle rail of the Meraxes. The flagship refitted for this push, chirping at gulls that dared will too near. Decks creaked beneath the march of unsullied phalanxes filing to their quarters, shields ringing a slow percussion. Somewhere aft, Dothraki riders argued over how many Stormlander skulls a proper Khalasar should collect before nightfall. The rumbling laughter smelled of fermented mare's milk and sharpened Arak blades. In Drogon's saddle, Daenerys adjusted her weight, feeling the healed scar where the saddle straps once dug raw after her first flight over Valyria. Beneath, Theon sat close, armored in green-lacquered scale sewn with black rawhide. His fever had broken, though white scar tissue spidered down neck and collarbone thanks to Keldos's poison drafts. Each breath he drew tasted of brine and something like redemption. He kissed the hollow behind her ear, a bare brush of salt-roughened lips. "All sails set. By noontide we'll pass Driftmark," he murmured. A good omen. Valerian bones once ruled those seas. Daenerys steered Drogon into a broad circle, surveying. Jorah on regal angled 50 lengths to starboard. Barristan on Viserion held the port flank. Far below, captains on half 100 forecastles raised long bronze trumpets, answering dragon screams with the clarion bellow of war. Distant siege towers lashed to barges rocked gently in the swell, painted with red-black sigils. Crates of scorpion bolts and barrels of fresh water stood lashed in rows like silent columns of recruits. She felt her child twist beneath her girdle, a flutter stronger each day, as though tiny hands kneaded messages into her womb. Fire and sea, the unborn seemed to say, "We are coming." Hours stretched, measured by the thrum of oars and the hiss of wind through canvas. Afternoon sun burned steel white. Sailors daubed pitch on brows to keep sweat from eyes. At midwatch, an Ionian gull splashed into the waves bearing an oily fish. Sea smoke dove from the meraxes, skimmed spray, and seized both bird and catch in a single snap, returning to perch triumphant on the bowsprit. Theon laughed, teeth flashing. "Already another Drogon," he called. Daenerys smirked. "Pray he grows less rebellious." Below, Grey Worm inspected catapult frames lashed to the hammer of Justice's deck, testing winches, scanning for rot. When he crossed to the starboard ballista, he found a line frayed near the pulley's throat. Sabotage, he sensed, not time-worn decay. He barked for cordage and set 3 stewards to weave new strands while he carved sigils of truth into the spar with his dagger. Justice in the low Valyrian script of Astapor, burnished by sunlight. Toward evening, the ragged silhouette of Driftmark crept over the horizon. Shattered arches of high tide glimmering atop chalky cliffs. Tidapools glittered like pools of quicksilver where sun met water. Sailors knelt, offering prayers to Valerion dead, whose ghosts were rumored to steer currents. On Regal's back, Jorah swallowed a sudden ache. Once, long ago, he charted spices here, a smuggler king of nothing. Now he returned as Lord Commander of Dragons. Life, he reflected, was a wheel of broken spokes hastily mended with hope and iron nails. Daenerys banked Drogon lower to observe the Isle's harbor and saw a cluster of fishing coracles beaching in panic. Word preceded them, it seemed. Ravens or rumor had painted the sky crimson ahead of their sails. She signaled Barristan with a tilt of her wrist. The old knight wheeled Viserion inland, scouting, before returning with a raised gauntlet. No enemy banners, only frightened fisherfolk. The queen dipped her head, relief tempered by caution. Night fell with sudden blackness and chill sea mist. The fleet hove to in gently rolling water 3 leagues south of Massey's Hook to await moonset. They could not risk Storm's End's watchfires sighting them too soon. On every deck braziers were shuttered. Conversation sank to murmurs. Above, dragons glided silent, barring the occasional crack of leathery wings. Theon took the middle watch, pacing the Merrix's foredeck, eyes scanning the horizon for betraying lantern glow. At first bell, he found Jorah standing alone near the quarter rail. "Ser Bear," Theon greeted, voice kept low. "Another night on the waves feels less brittle thanks to your claws overhead." Jorah managed a smile. "And your krakens below. The hulls hold steady. Storm's End will feel the weight." For a moment neither spoke. The sea slapped the planks, faint and rhythmic. Theon cleared his throat. "I've never thanked you. You set this path. Spoke my name to the queen when my own tongue was strangled by shame." "I spoke truth," Jorah said. "What she chooses after is her own heart." Theon's fingers worked the pommel of his sword. "Her heart now carries mine, and another, a small breath. If I fall, promise me you'll guard them. I know you will, but I need the words." Jorah's gaze held the younger man's. Moonlight traced every old scar on the bear's weather-gnarled face. "I swear it on the honor I have left. The queen and child will never stand alone." Theon nodded once. Wind tangled black hair across his brow. He shoved it back. "Then let the storm come." The storm came on wings of silent lightning hours before dawn. Fog pressed low. Thunder rumbled deep in the clouds but never cracked. Where crews stilled, all sails reefed tight. Grey Worm ordered anchors ready, but Daenerys signaled advance. The unnatural hush was better cover than any moonless slack tide. By horn blasts and torch-shrouded semaphores, she ordered the fleet to glide, half sail, half current, hugging the coast. Storm's End rose by degrees from gloom. Vast drum towers and colossal curtain walls perched on a sea-chewed promontory. Witchlight torches ringed parapets, their muted glow barely piercing the murk. On the lee side, shallow coves gnawed into limestone lay hidden from watch eyes. This inlet would host the Kraken. Theon's longships oar-silent, keel light, each bearing grappling lines, collapsible scaling frames, and bronze-capped rams for the gate that faced the sea. The first longship, Red Maiden, nosed into surf as gentle as a lover's breath. Theon leapt from prow to knee-deep water, boots silent on fine sand. A dozen ironborn followed. They crept beneath a natural archway and stared up at 60 feet of smooth wall. Above, drizzle hissed on stone. A lone torch high on the battlements spat sparks and winked out. Timing or sorcery, no one could say. Across the promontory, the main host prepared. Unsullied formed phalanx in the belly of siege barges. Dothraki crouched behind mantlets fashioned from Myrish shieldwood, bows strung, arrowheads dipped in pitch. Catapults readied casks of carrion oil to fling when the assault proper rang out. But until gates opened from within, all steel remained patient. Theon secured hooks, rope whispering as iron teeth bit stone. He ascended first, fingers raw against damp rock. Midway, a flake of limestone sheared off. He clung with one hand, heart hammering, until footing found purchase again. Years since Ramsay's kennels had taught him heights were kinder than wolves. Still his stomach churned. Near the top he paused, listening. Nothing but wind-rattling banners. He peered over the crenel. 2 Stormlander sentries slumped against Merlin's, cloaks soaked. One snoring softly, one chewing stale bread. Theon vaulted over, drew dirk, and pressed it to the first man's throat. Quiet as drowned men, he hissed. Fear paralyzed the sentry. He yielded. The second reached for a warhorn but felt cold steel at his kidneys as an ironborn woman hissed in his ear. Their surrender came swift. Within heartbeats grapnels thunked along the wall. A dozen, then a score, as ironborn clambered over. Bolts from mini-scorpions should have shouted alarm, but none loosed. Storm's End's garrison, reduced since Cersei pulled soldiers north, relied on a skeleton night shift. Theon signaled down, 3 quick tugs on the rope. In the cove, Grey Worm's silent runner relayed the code. Across the flotilla, unsullied captains snapped orders. Oars plunged. The river of men began to flow. South of the fortress, hidden between sea stacks, Jorah and Barristan circled on Regal and Viserion. Lantern flashes on the distant wall told stories of infiltration success. Jorah exhaled, steam curling from his lips. Below, surf burst white against cliffs. Should a horn blow now, he would dive with dragonfire, but stealth remained the sword's edge this night. Sea smoke flitted between the larger drakes, practicing dives, squeaking each time his wings clipped spray. Viserion tolerated the fledgling with bored dignity, gold eyes half-lidded.
Vit.
In Storm's End, Theon led his squad across a torchlit walkway into the massive drum tower that housed the Sea Gate's chain winch. 2 guards drowsed at the crank. Theon's blade ended their watch before their eyes opened. He wheeled the ratchet. Iron chains groaned, gate wheels creaked, and beneath, seawater surged through widening jaws of iron portcullis. In the outer blackness, iron-borne galleys glided forward on whispering waves. Bowsprits cleared the churn. Decks bristled with reavers eager to carve new tales. The Maiden's Fury entered first, its prow figurehead, once a naked Myrish courtesan, now repainted as a dragon woman entwined by kraken arms. Sailors shipped oars, coasted into the flooded gate tunnel. Above, Theon sheathed sword and drew Reek's knife, the same blade that once symbolized his servitude, now honed to carve another life. He tossed it in the air, caught it, and grinned into darkness. Meanwhile, Daenerys hovered on Drogon high above the outer curtain wall, shielded by fog. She felt the chain winch's vibration through the stone via Drogon's talons. Patience coiled within her chest. Each breath from the dragon echoed her own surge of flame. When the second signal brazier flared green atop the inner barbican, she flexed her calves. Drogon folded wings, plummeted. He struck the outer yard like a midnight meteor, claws crushing cobbles, flame gouting in a semicircle that incinerated the barracks roof. Soldiers tumbled from cots in confusion, blades still belted on racks. A second plume of dragonfire swept the mess hall, where a handful of men attempted to rally. They vanished in a cloud of sparks and screams. The keep shook beneath the assault, yet the stone defied quick melting. Storm's end walls had stood against dragons before, but they had never faced one within their very yard. Daenerys dismounted into chaos. She drew her Arak, gift from Jogo, spun it in fluid arcs, intercepting a Stormlander sergeant who charged with a boar pike. His spear shattered on the Valyrian steel-edged curve. The next heartbeat opened his chest. Unsullied poured through the inner gate moments later, shields locked, spears thrusting with mechanical precision. Grey Worm led them, his voice ringing commands in pure Valyrian. They advanced like a living wedge, splitting the garrison's rapid-formed shield wall, then curling outward to envelop resistors caught between pincer points. Barristan landed Viserion on the ramparts above the main gatehouse. The old knight dismounted, white cloak streaming despite drizzle, and barked for surrender. 3 Stormlander crossbowmen lowered weapons at the sight of a living Kingsguard legend. One young man fell to knees, eyes wide, repeating old tales his grandsire told of Barristan the Bold. Those who yielded were corralled. Those who tried to fight found Viserion's tail sweeping them from heights. In the courtyard near the well, Jorah slid down Rhaegal's shoulder and waded into melee. Iron cut iron. He parried a halberd, riposted with long claw, carving through gorget and collarbone. Spun, blocked a mace, elbowed the wielder's jaw, broke it, then ripped the mace away to brain another foe. Each breath roared in his ears, but his eyes sought only one figure, Daenerys, incandescent in the swirl. She fought not like a courtly queen, but like a desert storm conjured into flesh. Each strike measured, each step dance and death both. In her wake, fearless, unsullied advanced, leaving only ashes for footsteps. By dawn, the standard of kraken-entwined dragon flapped above Storm's End's highest tower. A final horn blast announced surrender. Rain ceased. First sunlight traced golden lines along the parapets, revealing corpses, scorch marks, shattered shields. Sea smoke perched on the corpse of a scorpion, munching rope with juvenile glee. Inside the great hall, long ago famed for its tapestries of the deeds of Durin Godsgrief, Daenerys held audience among smoking braziers and tumbled benches. Surviving Stormlander captains, many still trembling, knelt. Her pregnancy showed beneath her leather brigandine. Blood streaked her cheek where an arrow had grazed. "Rise and hear my terms," she commanded. None dared refuse. She offered clemency in exchange for renewed oaths to the true queen of the 7 kingdoms. All men present swore by the 7 or the drowned god or whichever powers they trusted that they would bear her banners north or face Drogon's return. Those with lands outside the Stormlands would return to gather levies. Those within would billet Unsullied and Dothraki. A new maester, one loyal, sent from Dragonstone with raven of white wax, would replace Keldos's ghosts. When the hall emptied, Jorah remained. The great doors closed. Rainwater dripped from smashed windows. Daenerys sat upon the high seat of Storm's End, fashioned from storm-smoothed driftwood centuries old, exhaling slowly. Theon knelt by her side, wiping a cut across her knuckles with wine-soaked linen. She winced at the sting but did not pull away. Jorah shifted, bowing. "Your Grace, Ser Bear," her voice rasped with exhaustion. "Report damage. We lost 9 longships to submerged reefs and 3 siege barges to crossfire. 42 unsullied dead, 70-odd wounded. Dothraki casualties lighter. Dragon wounds. Minor scale cracks along Drogon's left flank. Nothing that will linger. Rhaegal and Viserion unscathed. The castle's food stores are substantial. We hold the gate against any counterstrike. Victories carve debt," she whispered, stroking her belly. "But we pay them forward." She fixed him with violet gaze. "And Jorah Mormont? Wounds?" He rolled one shoulder, deep ache from halberd impact, yet only inclined his head. "None that matter, Khaleesi." Theon rose, sliding battered glove over Daenerys's fingers. "We must broadcast our triumph before Cersei can spin lies. Ravens to every corner. Already perched on ramparts," she said. "Missandei prepares the letters." She leaned back, eyes fluttering a moment. "After bring me quill, I would add a line in my own hand." Theon squeezed her hand. Rest first. No, she murmured. Queens rest when the crown is safe. Outside the keep, unsullied cleared rubble, stacking broken shields. Dothraki lit cookfires, skinning boars found in Storm's End's larders. Smoke mingled with sea air, carrying scent of sizzling pork over blood and ash. Farther seaward, iron-born reavers emptied wine stores into barrels, singing bawdy ballads about krakens bedding dragons, though they pitched their voices low whenever a dragon's silhouette glided overhead. That night, Theon climbed the battlements with Daenerys wrapped in a bearskin cloak moist from sea spray. They stood arm in arm watching lightning flicker over Shipbreaker Bay. The wind carried gull cries and the faint creak of rigging. Beneath them, flaming braziers threw shifting shadows across the outer yard where Jorah drilled a fresh Stormlander recruit contingent. People who had fought them hours earlier now learning unsullied shield discipline under the bear's stern eye. Daenerys rested her head against Theon's shoulder. "Does victory feel like home?" she asked. The Sea Lord considered. "Home, no, but perhaps a door to it." He placed her hand upon his chest, over the place where Ramsay's knives had carved grooves. "Each battle fills these hollows, piece by piece. Soon they will brim. Or I will die before they do," he said quietly. But that is a lesser fear now. They watched Jorah correct a recruit stance, gently but firmly aligning the woman's spear. "He is tireless," Theon observed. "Is there no wound deeper?" "He bleeds inward," Daenerys said, voice soft with sorrow. "Yet each drop is poured into duty." She shivered. Theon tightened the cloak. "He loved me once. Once." Theon arched a brow. "He loves me still," she admitted, "but I have asked him to love in silence. It is cruelty, yet necessary." Her eyes brimmed with unshed tears. "I worry it will break him one day." Theon kissed her temple. "Bears do not break easily." And far below, as though hearing his name across the wind, Jorah glanced upward, saw the silhouettes, and smiled. A brief shadow across tired features, before returning to drills. Word of Storm's End's fall reached King's Landing in just 3 days. The Raven arrived to Qyburn's rookery, where fetid cages rusted. Cersei read it in the privy, wine cup in hand. The red letters, ink mixed with dragon's blood, seemed to steam on the parchment. "Storm's End bends the knee. The wheel turns. Fire and sea sweep the realm. Bend or burn." Cersei crushed the scroll, hissed through teeth stained purple. "Fetch the Golden Company, and ready the Scorpions." Across the narrow sea, in the port of Volantis, Euron Greyjoy limped into harbor on a captured princely galley, half mad from salt exposure. Nightfall still at his hip, he strode down the gangplank and announced to the first wharfmaster that he intended to wed a dragon queen or devour her unborn babe, whichever fate proved louder. He laughed until the wharfmaster fled. Then he sought sellsail captains rumored to traffic in shadowbinders, certain that if dragons could burn, krakens could drown them. On the wall, ravens circled the grim white parapets bearing scraps of news unthinkable months before. A dragon queen wed to an ironborn prince, Storm's End aflame, and rumor of a fourth dragon whose scales shimmered like tides. Jon Snow, now Lord Commander restored, read the reports while wraiths of cold mist seeped through arrow slits. He touched ghosts rough and wondered which threat would reach his ancient stones first, the dead from beyond or living fire from the south. But for the moment, within Storm's End's thick walls, Daenerys allowed herself a sliver of peace. 3 days after the siege, she lay in a chamber hung with tattered banners of Durandon stags, driftwood candelabra flickering amber glow. Midwives from Dragonstone had sailed with the host. They now measured her swelling belly, listening to heartbeats. One strong rhythm, swift and sure. The queen closed her eyes, picturing a child with silver hair and storm-gray eyes riding sea smoke across sunlit skies. Sea smoke rested curled upon the hearthstones, crooning. Dragons understood the quickening. They guarded eggs and infants with primal zeal. When Jorah entered, the queen had summoned him. The fledgling lifted its head, hissed softly in greeting. Jorah bowed. "Your grace called." Daenerys gestured him closer. She held a folded parchment. Wax seal stamped with kraken-entwined dragon. Broken. He recognized Iron Island's script. Asha Greyjoy's neat scrawl, delivered by Raven. She had been freed by Stannis in exchange for fleet aid, and now sailed toward Dragonstone with 5 swift longships, ready to serve her brother and queen. "Another tide rising," Daenerys said. "We will need Jorah Mormont's counsel." He smiled faintly. "Then counsel you shall have." They spoke late into night, battle maps for the march on King's Landing, ration loads, how to quell Stormlander insurgents still skulking in Wilderland forests. Yet beneath every tactic lay unspoken warmth. At last Daenerys rose, steadying herself on the desk. "Long day," she murmured. Jorah offered an arm. She took it. He guided her toward the chamber door where Theon waited, leaning on crutch while his thigh wound yet knitted. Theon nodded thanks to the bear. They passed into the corridor as a pair. Jorah stood alone under the driftwood chandelier, candle wax dripping like tears onto flagstones. He drew a breath scented with lilac and sea, and whispered to empty air, "Always." On the parapet above the hall, Grey Worm met Missandei beside a slit window. They watched the courtyard where Unsullied drilled Ironborn recruits under torchlight. Missandei recited letters from Dorne. Prince Quentyn wished audience, bearing promise of steppe cavalry untested since the Blackfire pretenders. Grey Worm considered the deeper meaning hidden between diplomatic lines. Did the Dornish smell ashes or victory? He turned to the woman whose eyes caught starlight in flecks of gold. "The Queen's dream grows," he said, "like seed in spring mud." Missandei smiled. "Seeds bloom fastest in blood and ashes, history says." "Then we must keep the ground wet," he replied, surprising them both. South of the castle walls, fishermen returned to their huts and found bronze coins stamped with kraken and dragon left on thresholds, payment for nets seized by the army. No soldier admitted leaving them, yet by morning every hut housed coins enough to feed mouths for a month. Some swore a bear-cloaked knight trudged the strand by night, dropping tokens like breadcrumbs of conscience. Rumor wove quickly. The Queen's men paid debts even to paupers, and in a stifling cell beneath Storm's End, Maester Keldos, dazed dead by fire, lay on a stone slab, his body charred to the bone. Yet under flickering torchlight, something moved in the ashes of his burnt robe. A small glass vial intact by miracle, cork scorched but seal unbroken. Within swirled black liquid shot with flecks of red, bloodroot, tears of liss, and powdered shadow onyx stolen from ass high. A rat nosed the vial, knocked it rolling. It clinked against the slab's edge, teetered, and dropped, just as a jailer entered bearing fresh bodies for the crypt. The vial smashed on flagstones. Vapor hissed upward, silent and invisible. Above, Storm's End bustled in victory's uneasy dawn. Below, a shadow unseen crept through stone, seeping into cracks, into dungeons and cisterns, ready to coil when next a spark of treachery sought tinder. For war was not won. Wheels turned still. In 3 weeks' time, dragon and kraken banners would fly at Blackwater Rush crossings. A mother would bear her child within walls that once defied dragons. A bear would stand before wildfire scorpions, white beard singed, and a queen on a lion-wrought throne would gamble kingdoms on a single volley. Yet for this breath, in the hush just before drums resume, Daenerys Targaryen, Theon Greyjoy, and the unborn child of sea and flame drifted to sleep within Storm's End, their dreams woven of breaking waves, warm scaled wings, and the promise that tomorrow might, just might, bend before them. They did not see the lone star burning green on the horizon, trailing smoke toward the capital, nor hear Euron's laughter echoing through Volantene alleys. They slept, and the realm spun on, balanced precariously between tidal surge and furnace roar, awaiting dawn. The wheel creaked, turning. Night draped Storm's End in sheets of violet haze, a hush broken only by outrider horns lowing at distant checkpoints, and the rhythmic clank of forges still shaping enemy steel into dragon-kraken sigils. Within the round keep, torch-gilt corridors spiraled downward to the war room Jorah Mormont had claimed as nerve center. A single oil lamp cast trembling shadows across the painted table replica. Rough, smaller than the original, yet accurate enough that coastline ripples seemed to lap against miniature walls. He leaned on mailed fists, eyes tracking wooden game pieces. Green lions for Cersei's legions, silver elephants for Golden Company mercenaries rumored to march through the Kingswood, and a black kraken entwined about a red dragon marking Storm's end itself. Beside him, Grey Worm updated casualty scrolls in neat Giscari glyphs. Each name scored across the parchment was a cut somewhere behind Jorah's ribs. Footsteps padded down the stair. Missandei, hair bound in braids dusted with salt. "Prince Quentin's outriders approach," she said. "They fly a red sun and spear dipped in black ribbon." Jorah straightened. "Show him to the queen when she wakes." "She wakes already," Daenerys' voice answered from the archway. She entered clad in lambwool robe dyed sunset orange, its edges embroidered with Valyrian scripture. A thin sheen of sweat rimmed her temples. Pregnancy flushed her cheeks. Theon followed, limping but unbowed, one hand resting on a rack-carved cane. "Prince Quentin Martell," Daenerys repeated, gesturing for the Dornish envoy to enter. The prince stepped from shadows. Lean, sunburnt, his cloak a deep rust color, gold brooch shaped like a yawning basilisk. He knelt, sand-scuffed boots scraping stone. "Your Grace," he said, "Dorne offers spears and sand steeds. 10,000 if need be." "And what asks Dorne in return?" Daenerys queried, taking a seat carved from WRM bone, sea smoke curling on its pedestal nearby. "Only that the North Road remain open for our caravans, and that the one true queen remember Sunspear when the lioness falls." Theon studied him. "And how fares your father, Prince Doran?" "Watching clouds from his tower." Quentin's tone smoothed stone. Rumor claimed Doran Martell seldom moved. Yet sun licks even high towers. He grows eager. Daenerys rested both hands on her belly. "I accept Dornish blades, but understand, any spear I wield must pierce only tyranny, not small folk." Prince Quentin pressed fist to chest. "The sun was forged to burn tyrants, Your Grace." Jorah moved a green lion token toward King's Landing. "We march soon. Sunspear's host will need provisioning." "We rode with camels, water, grain, dates," Quentin said. "Supply lines by sea from Planky Town have begun." Grey Worm nodded, marking scroll. A tremor shook the keep. Everyone stilled. Sea smoke bristled, wings flaring. A muffled boom echoed, distant yet heavy. "Scorpions," Theon muttered. Missandei crossed to a slit window, parted drape. "Flares on the outer cliffs. Red, then gold." "Signal for spotted sails," Jorah said, already striding to the stairs. "All to posts." Outside, dawn's horizon glowed with false fire. Gray clouds parted to reveal a scattering of masts creeping across Shipbreaker Bay. Black hulls, beetle shell dark, trimmed in copper. On the main mast of the lead galley fluttered a crimson-inked eye over split-tongue kraken. Euron Greyjoy had come. Theon's breath frosted despite summer heat. He lost silence, yet he built more. Daenerys climbed Drogon's harness. "Then we finish what Valyrian storms failed." Regal and Viserion thundered from ramparts, Jorah and Barristan in their saddles. Sea smoke hopped from pedestal toward the courtyard, but Daenerys clicked tongue. Too small for pitched war. The fledgling chirped indignantly, but obeyed. Battlements erupted in organized chaos. Unsullied scrambled to ballista positions. Stormlander converts loaded corals tipped with dragonglass shards. Ironborn volunteers hauled nets laced with barbed hooks to entangle enemy grapples. Grey Worm strode the parapets, voice a whip in High Valyrian commanding shield formations. The fleet nearing shore broke formation suddenly, splintering into a crescent. Thick black smoke belched from braziers along their decks. Jorah, leveling his spyglass, hissed. Wildfire barrels. Green liquid sloshed, igniting where sparks met air. Infernal emerald tongues raced across hull planks, yet the galleys did not slow. They meant to beach burning, create a wall of living flame. Barristan spurred Viserion into a dive. Dragonfire of pure white gold met wildfire with a concussion that split waves. For a heartbeat, sea turned to molten glass. Then shockwave hurled burning debris skyward. A mast impaled Viserion's wing, ripping membrane. The dragon shrieked, banking erratically toward cliffs. Barris Tan, Daenerys cried, but her voice vanished in roaring wind. She and Drogon plunged, spewing red-orange flame across the incoming crescent. Wildfire detonated prematurely upon 2 galleys. They burst like rotten fruit, sailors screaming as sea swallowed them in boiling tide. But 3 more vessels darted through smoke, hulls charmed with fireproof sela.
Ente, euron est vistet alchemy.
Euron himself stood on the prow of a bronze-plated ramship named Gorgon's Grin, hair wild in salt gale, one eye blazing with mirth. He raised a horn of black glass etched with glyphs, dragonbinder if sailor lore held. He blew. The sound, no sound mortal ears could grasp, rippled across bay, curling into Drogon's skull like ice needles. Drogon faltered mid-air, wings shuddering. Daenerys felt the dragon's pain lance through her bond. She clamped thighs around saddle, whispered in high Valyrian, "I am your blood, hold fast." Drogon roared defiance, wavered but steadied, flame licking his nostrils. Jorah urged Rhaegal between Drogon and Gorgon's Grin, but the horn's second blast cracked across the sky. Rhaegal screamed, gyrating sideways. Jorah held fast as dragon tumbled. Only last-second wing beat saved them from watery death. A third blast was forming on Euron's lips when an arrow, not of wood, but Valyrian steel shaft, whistled from Storm's End's highest tower, loosed by Greyjoy's own sister. Asha's longship had slipped behind Euron's shield line. Her archers seized vantage on cliffs. The arrow hit Horn, shattering it in Euron's hands. Shards sliced his cheek, drawing black blood. His laughter boomed louder than war drums. The battle careened into chaos. Barris Tan skidded Viserion onto a ledge near the waterline. Unsaddled, the old knight hacked at ropes binding a scorpion to its deck. He severed anchor lines, kicked the siege engine into the surf where currents dragged it beneath Gorgon's Grin's hull. The scorpion's loaded bolt jammed under keel, tearing planks. Water gushed in. Euron roared orders. Boarders leapt from his sinking flagship to a sister vessel. He sought higher deck, waving nightfall. Jorah saw the move, steered Rhaegal, and Dove. Crossbow bolts peppered green scales, but most glanced. Rhaegal slammed tail across the deck, tossing sailors like rag dolls. Jorah vaulted down amid splinters, Longclaw meeting nightfall in thunderclap of Valyrian steel. Sparks flew blue. Timber groaned. "Twice we dance."
Euron howled.
"Twice ends here," Jorah barked, forcing him back. Yet Euron's frenzy was a storm. Blades spun in unpredictable arcs. He cut Rhaegal's foreclaw. Dragon shrieked. Crew seized chance. One hurled hook that snagged Jorah's shoulder, yanking him sideways. Euron advanced. On ramparts, Theon saw it. Blood drained from his face. He turned to Daenerys hovering overhead. She met his gaze, gnawed sharper than arrow. He grasped rope line descending to the inner yard, slid rough-handed to the stables, whistled for a wind-blown stallion captured in Dorne. Mounting, he galloped down switchback path to surf where Asha's skiff waited. He leapt aboard. His sister's eyes widened, but she shoved off without question. They rode hard through wreckage. A barrel of wildfire bobbed, hissed. Asha steered around. Scorching spray kissed cheeks. Meanwhile, Drogon clamped jaws around a munitions galley, crushing catapult. Flame jetted, liquefying the deck. But another horn, crafted of polished bone, sounded from a ship further back. Drogon snapped head toward noise, wings stuttering. Daenerys grit teeth. More horns? How many must Euron break before dragons lose will? She scanned waves. On the quarterdeck of a squat cog, a cloaked figure sounded second horn, hood slipping to reveal scarred face. Not Euron's but Qyburn's pet alchemist, Ruggan. The queen's rage flared. She directed Drogon into dive. But muscled ropes shot from rigging, tipped with obsidian hooks. They latched onto Drogon's forelimb, hind ankle, neck. Sailors heaved, dragging dragon downward. From the sky came Rhaegal, claws slashing ropes free. Jorah had taken wing again. His blade arm bled, but he guided Regal with ferocious focus. "Fly, my queen!" he yelled across wind. "Finish this!" Below, Euron regained deck control, rallying thralls with promise of drowned god glory. He raised Nightfall, pointing toward Storm's End. Catapults remaining on 2 backup galleys cranked, unleashing payload. Huge iron barrels banded in green runes. They arced over waves, landing on beach slope inside castle wall perimeter. Barrels splintered. Thick black smoke poured, but no flames. Yet, Unsullied rushed to investigate. As they neared, smoke ignited in blinding sheet of green wildfire, vaporizing rank upon rank. A breach opened in wall. Grey Worm barked retreat. He and Stormlander converts dragged wounded back. The breach, though narrow, formed gate wide enough for Euron's ground troops if they landed. Ironborn longboats pivoted toward shore. On water, Theon and Asha neared Euron's commandeered deck. Grapnels thrown, they climbed starboard gunwale. Asha loosed a scream of war, axes flashing. Sailors stumbled. She cleaved path. Theon ducked under a halberd, hamstrung its wielder, disarmed another with swift hook, then locked sight on Euron. Blood trickled from brother's patched eye. Grin widened. "Little brother returns. Shall we trade hands and tongues this time?" "No more trophies, Euron," Theon said. "Just endings." They clashed. Nightfall bit Kane's sword. Ironwood shaft cracked, but Theon pivoted inside the arc, dirk sliding beneath Euron's rib. The Mad King howled, backhanding pommel across Theon's temple. Stars exploded. Theon dropped. Euron raised Nightfall overhead. Asha's axe whirled through air, chopping Euron's wrist. The sword clanged away. Euron bellowed, grabbing bloody stump. Asha moved to finish, but Euron spat black blood, kicked her knee, snatched fallen dirk with left hand, stabbing her side. She gasped. Theon surged, ramming shoulder into brother, both sliding across bloody planks. Euron's hand groped for spilled horn shards, grabbed jagged piece, slashed Theon's cheek. Pain flared. Theon answered with headbutt, breaking nose cartilage. He wrenched Nightfall's hilt from deck, reversed grip, plunged blade through Euron's left lung. Euron's eyes widened. Blue swirl mixed with madness met Theon's steady gray. "Drowned god," he rasped. "The sea does not want you," Theon whispered, twisting steel. He shoved Euron backward, over the rail into the cauldron of wildfire burning wreckage below. Green flames swallowed him. Water hissed. Smoke rose. On ramparts, Jorah's cry of triumph echoed. Drogon incinerated Hornblower's cog. Without horns, the last of Euron's loyalists faltered. Regal and Viserion strafed decks, melting armaments. Longboats veered, disarrayed, some surrendering. Battle ended with sun nearing zenith. Shipbreaker Bay steamed from combined dragonfire and wildfire. Charred planks drifted like cemetery markers. Barristan tended Viserion's wing. Maesters applied silk soaked in Myrish salve. Asha, wounded but alive, stood beneath jury-rigged tarp as healers sutured deep gash, curses hissing through clenched teeth about crow-eyed bastards and their bad breath. Theon knelt beside, pressing knuckles to forehead, silent prayer to drowned god and new gods both. Daenerys landed beyond breach, surveying devastation. Hundreds dead, unsullied, ironborn, stormlanders. More wildfire barrels now cooled lumps. Inert, she clenched fists. "Qyburn conjures plague," she murmured. "Cersei will not fight honorably." Grey Worm approached, saluted. "Breach sealed, we repelled landing parties. Casualty list grows." His tone flat, but eyes shimmered with grief. Jorah dismounted, arm in sling. "But victory stands. Euron burns, his fleet scattered. The sea road is ours." "Victory's blood tastes bitter," Daenerys replied. That night a pyre of green-tinged timber consumed the dead. Flames danced between emerald and scarlet. Daenerys poured Dornish wine upon the base, chanting Valyrian funeral rite. Theon lit the pyre. Sparks corkscrewed into starlit sky, drifting toward black silhouette of Regal perched watchful. Near dawn, Daenerys, Theon, Jorah, and Asha gathered in war room again. Missandei read dispatch. Scouting ravens report Golden Company fortifying Kingswood approaches. Scorpions mounted on watchtowers ringing capital. And rumor that Cersei's own Maester experiments with dragonbone ballista bolts infused with pyromancer sigils. Jorah moved silver elephant pieces deeper into Reach farmland. They'll attempt flanking raids, hit our grain lines, starve our host. We must hold Tumbleton Crossroad. Asha, pale but fiery, slapped dagger against map. Take longships up Mander, raid their baggage trains. I'll command. Theon nodded. And I ride Stormlander uplands, rally houses still loyal to Baratheon blood. They bend for their home or break by it. Daenerys' gaze settled on Jorah. And you? He met her eyes. I lead vanguard to Blackwater's south bank, fortify siege towers. We need foot north of the river before Lion can muster. She placed hand on his. Take Regal, but mind the wound. He glanced at Sling. Scars remind me I still breathe. That evening, sea smoke nuzzled Daenerys' stomach. The unborn kicked response. Jorah watched from doorway, feeling warmth overshadow pain. He turned away, caught Theon's approach. The men paused. Thank you, Theon said quietly. For what? Jorah asked. Saving me from myself? Theon answered, then tapped chest. I thought I came back for a crown. Now I see I came back for meaning. That we share. He extended hand. Jorah clasped it. No more needed. Days later, columns marched north. Dust clouds trailed Dothraki hooves. Dornish spears glittered behind. Unsullied lead, shields interlocked. War drums echoed up rolling hills. At Tumbleton, they found river fords already flooded by heavy rains, delaying wagons. Jorah ordered pontoons built. Grey Worm supervised. During delay, scouts returned bearing grisly tokens. Tar-dipped heads of Stormlander lords who refused Cersei's call. Spikes hammered into skulls shaped like lion claws. In camp, Daenerys met Prince Quentyn again. He brought carved fetishes of his father's blessing, sunstone amulets said to cool desert fevers. He gifted one to the queen's unborn child. Theon thanked him. Daenerys smiled. Night before crossing, a storm rolled from west, thunderheads flickering like dragon hearts. In Jorah's tent, lamplight wavered across parchment orders. He dipped quill, writing his will, shoulder wound festered worryingly. He sealed letter with house sigil, bear rampant. He addressed to Daenerys. Then he slept soft, dreaming of snowlit Skagos, of bear cubs stumbling across ice. Midstorm, assassin struck. Qyburn's little birds, gaunt youths in ragged cloaks, slipped through pickets disguised as beggar children. They carried glass globes of wildfire bound with twine, slingshots to shatter them. One crept toward officers' tent row, another toward Dragon Picket where sea smoke dozed near Regal. Yet sea smoke stirred, nostrils flaring, sensing alchemical stench. He shrieked. Guards turned. Arrows cut night rain. One assassin loosed globe. It sailed wide, smashing against sodden turf, fizzled. The child fled, but Grey Worm pursued, capturing him near supply wagons. Under torch interrogation, he bit poison in molar, died. In officers' row, second assassin breached Jorah's tent flap. The bear woke at whisper of step, rolled aside as dagger flashed. He grappled attacker, girl no older than 13, eyes hollow. She snarled, spitting teeth dyed green. Jorah wrenched blade free, but not before she slashed his forearm.
Poison tip.
Jorah tossed dagger aside, pinned her. She hissed, Queen must die before lioness burns. Who sends you? Jorah demanded. Rats crawl from Red Keep. Blood foamed her lips. She convulsed cyanide pill. By dawn, Jorah's veins felt aflame, wound edges blackening. Maester Oral lanced, drew foul ichor. Manticore venom, he murmured. Slow but lethal if unpurged. Daenerys arrived, eyes wide with fear. She gripped Jorah's good hand. Bear, you will not leave me. He mustered grin. Bear's stubborn. Maester brewed milk of poppy with ground ghost pepper to flood system, hoping flush. Jorah drank, sweat bursting. Fever seized him. Army could not tarry. By midday they crossed river on pontoons, leaving rearguard to guard sick. Daenerys refused to ride ahead. She stayed in pavilion, tending Jorah with soaked cloths. Theon commanded columns in her stead, sending riders for healers versed in Myrish bloodletting. Night stretched. Jorah raved, "Lyness, forgive exile." Daenerys whispered lullabies. Sea smoke curled outside entrance, beating wings to fan stale air. At dawn, fever broke. Jorah opened eyes, saw her. Still alive. Still needed, she said, tears glinting. Sleep now. Relief flooded camp. Army advanced again. Fields of golden wheat bowed under hooves. Birds scattered. Rumor raced before them. Dragon queen near, lioness quakes. Cersei responded by ordering small folk out of surrounding villages into capital, swelling streets with refugees. Meet shield of innocence. She mined highways with wildfire caches disguised as carts of hay. A week's march brought Daenerys to ruins of Deep Dean. Here Golden Company detachments dug trenches. Battle lines formed. Dragons soared overhead. Qyburn's engineers unveiled new scorpions. Triple-arm torsion, bolts sheathed in obsidian layered with pyromancer wax. First volley clipped Viserions' previously wounded wing. Dragon veered, crashed through orchard. Barristan tumbled free but ribs snapped. Jorah, still weak, mounted regal and dove to protect friend. Flames swept scorpions, but more churned flanks. Unsullied advanced through trenches, spear points clashing with mercenary pikes. Dornish spears thrust side by side with Stormlander axes. Dothraki thundered from rear, vaulting berms, Iraq's cleaving helms. Theon led cavalry charge on river flank, smashing elephant-mounted crossbows. Prince Quentin's men draped in sand-colored cloaks stormed Command Ridge. Mercenary captains fell. Battle raged until moon rose blood orange. When silence came, fields lay charred. Golden Company broken, survivors fleeing toward King's Landing. Daenerys ordered medics tend wounded mercenaries before own men. Gesture of mercy meant to turn hearts. Some mercenaries swore fealty on the spot, citing old oaths to dragon blood. The siege lines closed. King's Landing visible across Blackwater. Towers bristling scorpions, walls lined with wildfire casks. Cersei's banners, lion crowned with 7-pointed star, fluttered defiantly. Rumor claimed she imprisoned the High Sparrow, now preaching in dungeon cages. Power hers alone. Daenerys established camp on southern high ground, Dragon's Roost, once war encampment of Aegon I. There she erected crimson pavilion edged in black. Within, map of city sprawled. Sewer networks, postern gates, secret tunnels Varys once whispered of. Spies revealed Qyburn stored wildfire under September of Baelor's ruins, ironically site of prior explosion. Daenerys shuddered. A council convened. Theon, Asha, now crutch-free. Prince Quentin, Grey Worm, Jorah, Barristan, bandaged. Plan unfolded. Simultaneous dragon strike to destroy scorpions. Ironborn assault on Mud Gate. Unsullied breach from Gate of the Gods after detonating sappers. Dothraki would circle to Rose Road, cut reinforcements. But Queen insisted minimize small folk casualties. We march at dawn 2 days hence, she said. Civilians will be warned. Gates open or city surrendered. That night ravens bearing scrolls of surrender terms flew over walls, dropped into streets. Some read by lamplight, hope sparking. Cersei countered by hanging messengers from walls, their bodies charred green. On eve of assault, Daenerys walked rampart with Theon. Blackwater glittered silver. She laid hand on his. If walls fall, I must face Lioness personally. You won't go alone, Theon said. Battle may drag, she murmured. Child stirs. Time nears. He cupped belly. Then we fight faster. At campfires below, Jorah sharpened Longclaw under flicker. Barristan sat beside, voice low. Tomorrow decides kingdoms, or ends them, Jorah replied. Barristan regarded the younger, yet older warrior. If I fall, protect her. We made that pact long ago. I know. Barristan's lips cracked smile. But reminders anchor souls. They clasped forearms, white cloak to bare cloak, knight's oath. Within city, Cersei sipped arbor red atop Iron Throne, Qyburn reporting losses. She laughed. Let the dragon come. Let her child see mother burn. She eyed elaborate ballista loaded with obsidian-laced spear aimed through shattered window down throne room axis. Direct shot for dragon foolish enough to breach ceiling. Behind tapestry, wildfire tanks pressurized. Cersei stroked golden trigger lever. Kingdoms forged in flame, she mused. Dawn's first horn. Dragons launched. Walls trembled. Storm of arrows rose, but Regal and Drogon juked. Scorpion crews died incinerated. Unsullied advanced under tower shields, rams battering gate of the gods. Explosive charges placed by sappers thundered. Gate split. Grey Worm led surge into Hedge Market. Dothraki riders vaulted barricades, scattering gold cloaks. In harbor, ironborn longships, commanded by Asha, bombarded Mudgate, grapnels hooking battlements. Sailors stormed ladders, clashing with Lannister soldiers. Within Red Keep, Cersei watched flames outside windows. City bells clanged, panic toll, not surrender. Her face twisted. No bells, she hissed. She ordered archmesters to silence belfries. Archers shot ropes, bells stilled mid-ring. Outside, Daenerys, astride Drogon, hovered above Flea Bottom. She saw civilians fleeing north alleyways. She veered northward, avoiding flame spray. She broadcast orders to Regal, target only scorpions. Jorah maneuvered accordingly. Suddenly, a hidden ballista on the Street of Sisters emerged from wagon. Bolt streaked, punching through Regal's wounded wing, tearing new gash. Jorah nearly plunged, regained but lost altitude. They crashed onto Great September rubble. Rubble collapsed, dust cloud swallowed. Daenerys felt concussion through bond. Jorah, she whispered. She banked Drogon, but scorpion lines glinted from Queen's Gate Tower. Must finish mission. Tears burned eyes. At Gate of the Gods, Unsullied engaged fearless Lannister halberdiers. Carnage. Prince Quentin's Dornish spears arrived flank, tipping scale. Theon led vanguard toward Red Keep's Hill, banners snapping. Cersei activated secret plan. Qyburn's alchemists ignited wildfire reservoirs beneath Guildhall Quarter. Streets erupted in green geysers. Hundreds of small folk vaporized. Shockwave rolled toward Unsullied line, halting advance. Green curtains of flame separated Daenerys' host from Keep. Drogon roared wrath. Daenerys' eyes burned violet fire. Enough! She steered dragon high, wings beating smoke aside, soared over Keep, smashing spires. Ballista from throne room window unleashed. Obsidian bolt hurtled. Drogon banked. Spear grazed flank, slicing a burning furrow but not fatal. He wheeled, perched atop Red Keep's roof. Talons split tiles. Daenerys dismounted upon shattered battlement. Inside throne room, smoke swirling, Cersei waited. Gold cloak phalanx flanked dais. She gripped wildfire trigger. Doors blasted open, Theon, Grey Worm, Asha limping but fierce, Stormlander shields raised, poured in. Blades clashed. Daenerys strode through broken arch, a rack in hand. Her hair blue-silver in updraft. Gravid belly pronounced. Cersei sneered, descending steps. Dragon pregnant. How fitting, slaughter 2 Targaryens at once. Yield, Daenerys said. Spare your people. My people are mine to burn, Cersei answered, thumb caressing lever. Crossfire ensued. Grey Worm dueled Ser Boros of gold cloaks, spear thrust through visor. Asha battled Gregor clone, Qyburn's imperfect giant, dodging mace blows. Theon led Stormlanders dispatching guards.